You're watching Adorama TV.
Hi everybody, welcome to Adorama TV Product Reviews. I'm Mark Wallace. Well, this week we have a very nice camera in to look at. This is the Leica M9 digital rangefinder. It's an 18 megapixel camera with a full frame sensor. It's 24 by 36 millimeters. And on the camera, we've got a standard 50 millimeter Leica lens. It's a 1.4 Summilux-M lens, and that will cost you about $3,700. So this is definitely a high-end camera for photojournalists and traveling photographers, those guys that want to have something that's very, very small, extremely durable, very lightweight, and it's going to last a lifetime. And that is exactly what this camera is. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Leica cameras, you know that they're famous for exactly those qualities. They're made out of metal. They last and last and last. They're almost indestructible. And the quality of the photos that you get are just unbelievably good. Part of that is definitely because of the glass and the lenses that are handmade in Germany. They're really, really amazing. So when I first got this, I decided I would take it and shoot in New York City. So I went and walked through some of the streets and shot some photos there. I took it to San Francisco, shot there, and then here around Phoenix. And what I found was that the thing that I really wanted out of this, which were high quality, high resolution, very, very sharp photos, well, I got out of this camera. And the thing that I kept saying was, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm getting from this camera. I was just blown away at the quality, the color, and the sharpness that I would get from this lens. It's really difficult to describe, and it's even difficult to show you some of those photos here on a video, because unless you see them at full resolution printed, you just don't get the full benefit of how amazing these photos are. So if you can, zip down to the Adorama store in New York and take a look at this camera for yourself, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Well, let's talk about some of the features of this camera. It is made for shooting in full manual mode, and that's how a lot of people use the Leicas. This also has aperture priority mode, which is really, really nice. And so on the top here, we have this dial, and this is to set your shutter speed. And you'll see that it has just your normal shutter speeds in full stop increments. It has a flash sync, so it's got a little flash on there. So if you want to put a flash on here or even use studio strobes, you can do that. It's going to set it to its sync speed. And then there's this little A. And what that does is it allows you to use the aperture ring here on the lens. And so you're manually selecting the aperture value, and then the Leica is going to select the proper shutter speed. So you can do that, or you can just shoot in full manual. And so what full manual mode allows you to do is set your shutter speed and your aperture value by yourself. Now the meter that's built in actually has two arrows, and it's pretty cool. It will point either left or right to show if you're either underexposed or overexposed. And it's really easy to know which direction to turn the dials, because the arrow is pointing in the direction that you need to move the dial. It's pretty cool. So it's very, very simple to meter. It's very, very simple to take a shot. And then the other thing is your focus is actually right here. It's full manual focus right on the lens. Underneath the lens, there's this little doohickey here where you can put your finger and really control that. It's really nice and tight. It does take a little while if you're new to a rangefinder to figure out how to get perfect focus, because you're not actually looking through the lens like you are an SLR body. You're looking through a rangefinder, and there's a little overlay that shows you two images, and when they line up, you're in perfect focus. And so it takes a while to get that down and know how to move the lens to get their focus in. But after a little bit of practice, I was able to do it pretty quickly with pretty amazing results every single time. And so that is a little bit of a learning curve. But once you get it down, it's hard to go back to an SLR camera and the big weight that you have. So the other thing that's interesting with this is the shutter release button. Now, this shutter release button is a little bit different than most, because it actually has 3 positions and not 2. So the first position, when you push that down, it will begin metering the light, and so you can look through the rangefinder and you can see if you need to make adjustments for exposure. And once you have that there, you can push it one more stop. It's very subtle. What that does is it locks in the exposure, and then you can recompose, and then finally the third click actually takes the shutter and it releases that. And so that's how that works. You have single shot mode, continuous shot mode, so you can do multiple shots. And then you also have a time delay mode, so you can put that on, run around, and get in the shot if you need to. Or if you're doing macro work, you can push that and then let go, and so your camera isn't going to be being moved by your hand. The other thing that is really nice are the features of the actual menus. So you have all the normal menu features where you can look through here, you can play back photos, you can scroll through them, and you do that by using this little dial right here. And so not only does it have a dial, it has a left and right and up and down arrow so that you can quickly move through that. And then you can set your ISO, look at your metadata, format your card, all that kind of stuff right from the back of the camera. It's really, really fast. Speaking of cards, let me show you where that stays. It's right underneath this plate here. And there you go. That's how you put in your SD card. So that slides right in there. And then the battery also sits right in there. And so that pops right on and off just like that. Or if you don't want to take this bottom panel off, you just want to leave that on there, well, there's a USB port right here. So this opens up. You can put a USB cable right in the side of the camera right here. And then that plugs right into your laptop or your desktop. And you can transfer files that way. And then that way you don't have to worry about taking the card in and out. The only negative thing about this camera that I could find, and I tested it for a few months actually, A, because I really wanted to play with it, but B, I wanted to see what kind of photos I could get from such a nice camera. The only negative thing that I found was the LCD screen on the back is really low resolution. And so when I first got the camera and I was looking at my results, I was a little disappointed because I thought, wow, those aren't very sharp, the color isn't very good. I thought I'd get something a little bit better than that. But then when I transferred those same pictures to my desktop computer and saw them, I was blown away at the quality. I couldn't believe how nice it was. And so what I learned to do was just use the back panel to check for composition, and that's about it. You can't judge color or focus really with this back LCD panel because the resolution just doesn't match the big beefy 18 megapixel sensor that this camera has built in. So it's good for composition, but you have to sort of trust your sight and understand how to focus. And once you go to your computer, you can see how awesome those photos are, which is a little bit like shooting with a real film camera. You don't know what you get until you develop it. So I sort of like that after a while. It sort of felt like I was shooting with some older technology, even though this is a brand new camera. Well, there you have it. It's the Leica M9 body and a Leica 50mm 1.4 SUMMILUX-M lens. I fell in love with these. I'm really sad that I have to send it back. I think I'm going to shed some tears when we put this in the box and send it back to Adorama. But there you have it. I love this camera. I think it's one of my top cameras of this year. And if you're looking for one, this is the camera to buy. Well, thank you so much for joining me this week. Remember, if you have gear that you would like me to review or questions about photography, you can send those to me at AskMark@Adorama.com. I'll see you again next week.
This episode is brought to you by AdoramaTV. Visit the Adorama Learning Center where you'll find photography tips and techniques, links to the gear used in this episode, and related videos. For all the latest photography, video, and computer gear, visit Adorama.com. And the next time you're in New York City, visit our store located on 18th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue.